Spinning wheel. Here we go. And we're live. Welcome back, Monifa.
Welcome, Susie. So glad to be here.
Oh, it's lovely to be back with you, streaming live, episode 16. Can you believe it? Of Sovereign Spirits Mastering Midlife. That's the Verve Vision part of it. Verve
Yeah,
Vision.
Urban Vision. Yes, so we have news. We have a little news before we get started. So if you haven't seen the post, this will be the last version, this last video of Urban Vision as it stands. So we'll be doing other things, but it will not look like this, right? And so we're bon voyaging what we've been doing for over a year. It's been a year and a half, I guess.
Mm.
And and there's still a ton of information we have. We'll leave our Buy Me a Coffee page open. So if you ever get the itch to dive into one of the books that we've talked about on the podcast, there's great notes there and the links. If you can't find them for yourself, there are links there that you can use to find the books. And yeah, and so it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool resource that will be maintained. And I haven't told Susie about this part yet. So it may continue onward in another form. And I'm thinking of because I was talking about how I love talking about the books. I really don't want to let that part go. And I feel like if we're going to be talking about them anyways, that we maybe we can drop little notes here and there and do something a little different. So it wouldn't be like a full podcast, but it may be you know, us on this book, right? So it'll be something maybe like that. Anyways, but that's what is being planned as we speak. And if you know and love us now, you can still see us on a regular basis. Both of us do regular shows. Susie Vine has a podcast I lost the name of Happify podcast. And a brand new episode available and up and ready today. You might want to drop that link, Susie, so they can hop over to know where they can find you and get more of you if they ever oh my gosh, I haven't had my monthly dose of Susie on Bourbon Vision, right? And so they can jump over there. And then, of course, I'll be over here on my YouTube channel, Monifa Harris, and I have my Gene Key transits, which I do right now, and I do all kinds. I have shows that I kind of pop in and out on. So that's kind of how I like to do things. I kind of have different series that happen when I feel like it. But regularly we have the Gene Key transits for the new moon and full moon. And yeah, so we'll see where we go from here. We're evolving into this new way of doing things, making sure we have the most joy and we really are showing up and giving what we have to offer. So we want to keep that up. So it's just going to look a little different moving forward. So if you have any questions for us, if you're just no, it must stay exactly how it is forever and ever, then we will commiserate. Okay, we will commiserate. And we appreciate it. We appreciate everybody showing up and getting curious about us that has come by. And yeah, and we have plenty of other good things for you. So come visit us.
We do. And I'll chat for a moment and encourage Monifa to drop her link, her YouTube channel link, or how to find her on the socials. Of course, if you're following us on Buy Me a Coffee, the links are all right there. If you're catching the streaming on YouTube, you're probably seeing Monifa on her channel, which I think her YouTube channel has a new name. If you search at Monifa Harris on YouTube, you should find her. But most recently, when I was pulling up some of our episodes, I think her channel might have a new cover, a new number. And so I posted a link there in the comments. You can catch Happified at happifydlife.com or links to find it on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple, of course. It's over on YouTube on the 3X Less Stress channel. And so it's good. It's good. We still have these outlets to share ideas and things that we feel are important. Monifa's always posting and streaming fabulous energy updates on her YouTube channel. And I love the idea of, just pulling from our conversations, because that's one thing Monifa and I are not letting slip from our calendars, is these opportunities to connect and share ideas, because that is how our relationship blossomed, and we're not going to let go of that space. And so we'll certainly share some of our scathingly brilliant insights moving forward. If you want to keep an eye over there on that Buy Me a Coffee, if you're following us there, you would get updates as updates are posted over there. So I love that idea. We'll get later on in today's show to talking about the book, the current book in our roster for the year. We were digging into The Practice by Seth Godin, which is great for creatives, and don't feel like you have to be classically what you might perceive as creative, but anybody who makes stuff, whatever you make, if you're a writer, if you're a cook, if you're a self-led person, if you're not working under the premise of somebody else who tells you what to do, then you are a creator. And this book has got great content. So we're going to come back around to that after we find out what is happening, because as you can guess by our change of direction in the middle of this year, this has been a big season of change. I know we talked about that in last month's live stream, and the changes keep on rolling. So Monifa, how should we prepare ourselves to move forward? I know this last new moon, as you warned us, had a lot of energy going on, and that is just 4 days past as we're streaming this on the 29th. So what else is coming?
Yes. Well, I have a whole new insight on this because I've been deep diving into some AI information. I've been deep diving on some sales, marketing information. And then, of course, the practice has come up. and what I said about the energy that was coming in, it was like coming in hot because of the way the chart was laid out, right? And it's so interesting because this month, what we're getting is the reflection of the same energy with more kind of as a practice tools. And so it's very interesting how everything came together for this show. It's so fun when that happens. And as you know, it's been happening since the beginning of the show. It's our favorite part. We giggle quite
Those
frequently
synchronicities.
on how these things show up together. So we just had our new moon on the 26th of May. We had our new moon in gate 16, or gene key 16, which is the shadow of indifference, the gift of versatility, and the city of mastery. And so what we were getting, the message that was trying to be perceived, and it still is because we're still in that energy in a lot of ways, is that we have to be able to care about something in order for us to be able to become what we need. That versatility is about the gift or the genius of being able to absorb so that you can act in real time with what's happening. And it's absorbing skill, it's absorbing just the input of the energy at the time. And there's every time I talk about a gene key, I say it a little differently because there's so many facets to what the energy is by itself. It's just like a pure kind of frequency. It doesn't imply anything in and of itself, but we perceive it in different ways based on our existence, right? And so this versatility piece is vital. Why am I bringing all this up? Because with AI and all this stuff, so I saw this round table with Steve, the Diary of the CEO dude, and he's doing this whole new spread. They're putting in $20 million into their podcast, whatever, big thing, and adding all these different shows and doubling down on this for sure, right? And this is one of the first things he's doing to launch the kind of a whole of the thing that they're giving this year. And it's about this conversation where they said basically all we have left when AI is fully integrated is our own agency, our ability to adapt, and basically our capability. How capable are we of innovating
Mm.
at a speed of which we're meeting the current need, right? Because like basically any standardized job is kind of like, even if it takes a high amount of skill, right? Once it understands the components of the skill, it can self agent. So we even have like, so that's the thing that was talked about in the beginning. And I'm like, whoa, that's another thing completely. When it can tell itself what to do, then we're definitely having some human conflict here. So what do we have left? Our own capacity to create and innovate at speed, versatility, right? Like, so this month is about what does it take to be versatile? And this is my interpretation, like, I'm not going to read this anywhere. But this full moon of Sagittarius is basically giving us like this listen. This is the Gates 26 and quantum human design. It's called integrity. And in Gene Keys, it's called the shadow of pride, the gift of artfulness, and the city of invincibility. I'm sorry, invisibility.
Mm.
Invisibility.
The
So
city of
pride,
invisibility.
that is the city. Like, why would I want to be invisible? Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like the nuance here, and this is what I'm trying to say. Like I'm trying to say without saying it, so we can move on when we get on to the next thing. Because, but the understanding here is that we both love and hate ego as humans, right? We hate people who seemingly are arrogant for no reason, especially. But even if they're arrogant for a reason, sometimes we're just like, I don't like that. Um, and at the same time, we don't like, at least in a Western, at least in the United States of America, we, like if you're going to be in the spotlight, you can't be a completely shrinking violet, right? We're like, if you're completely shrinking violet, then people are going to be like, well, why are you here? Why am I looking at you? What are you here for? Like, you have to have some sense of self and pride, right? So it's this understanding, like, why are we having pride? What is it? Um, well, part of it in that shadow, because that's how it's represented in this description, is basically because you're not. We feel like you can't get anything unless you go get it. It's very, again, United States of America, America. Go get it. Self ingenuity. You do it. Get it right. Go right. Like make it happen. So this idea that we won't get anything unless we grab it or take it,
Very
right?
masculine energy.
Yes, you said it. Okay. So,
Mm, feel it.
what this essentially is modeling is a distrust of the natural flow, the natural abundance, the natural prosperity that's happening. That we are basically not being grateful for the things that we automatically are given. The sun's still coming up every day. We're still have the capacity to plant a seed. Like these things are not given, but a given, because as we can see, we're slowly destroying them. So we just need to like appreciate what we have, right? So if we're allowing for that to be appreciated, then we're allowing for ourselves to receive naturally. And we probably won't need to feel like we are grabbing everything. We have to grab everything, right? So what we're doing when we're in our big ego that we have to we're gonna do it and we can do it and we're gonna do it because we said we're gonna do it. It's we are basically we're using our will to make make things happen, which basically puts us against everybody who has what we want, right? So we're putting our will against taking what is to be had. and whether that, and that's everybody, including the planet, right? Like it's happened that way. So by nature, like what is this frequency? Because the shadow in and of itself is not bad, right? It's again, how are we acting out the energy that creates this, I don't want more of that feeling, right? And so it's essentially that will itself is the power to harness light, according to Richard Rudd, right? So the power to harness light, where is he getting this from? He's getting this from DNA coding. So he's literally showing like how the DNA functions within the strand at this level, right? And it's basically for us to be able to take light and convert it into nutrients. So the one that most people would know is like vitamin D, right? Where we get that vitamin pretty much only because the sun interacts with our body, right? So that's the power to harness light. It's a power and it's real. It's happening right now to people outside right now, right? Like it's not, just because it's visible doesn't mean it's not happening, right? So that shadow pride is the belief that you can't overcome, or that you can overcome the forces of nature. So basically you're saying that, well, nature might say that they naturally have this thing that I don't, but I willfully will get it however I need to get it, right? And one of the markers of this energy is you can't relax for a single moment. You always have to be doing something. Well, that component happens to a lot of people in different situations, but it's if you're getting like the pride feature and this, then you're getting closer to the likelihood that is this frequency, right? So what are we scared of? We're scared of not getting what we want or need, getting our needs met, right? And so we feel in this shadow, the programming partner would be 45, and it's basically saying, I have to dominate what's around me in order to get what I need. This is why people are like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like arrogant people. I don't like, because they're like, what? Okay, I'm good now, right? They're not even paying attention to what they're dominating that's just happening, right? So it can look like being manipulative, putting people down, and using guilt and shame as weapons. Have you noticed, like again, the bullies of the world, like this is just what they do on accident. It's unconscious, but it's what they're trying to do is get what they want or need, right? But what happens, and usually what they want, really, ultimately, the fear is that we're alone and that we'll never be loved, essentially. But what happens as a result is that people don't want to be around them. They don't like them. And it actually causes a separation. On the reactive side, it's boastful. It's like this negative ego, and people are like, look what I got. I got a new car and it does 2,000 in a minute. And they're like, shut up, I just got this, I just got that. And we've made it, like, again, an aspect of the shadow. We've made it like, oh, they're just being boastful, like they're just talking about themselves all the time. But what they're trying to do, like the unconscious, what they're trying to do is to make themselves seen and liked. Right? That was the whole point of being able to do the thing in the first place. It's like, look, if I can do this, if I get a nice car, they'll like me. If I get it, they'll see me. They'll see that I'm a good person, that I work hard, right? But it doesn't work that way if you're in the shadow. It just causes more separation. Like people don't like you. They end up not liking you. They're like, oh, they think they are everything, right? And so what is the point of the frequency? What is supposed to be happening? Is this artfulness. The genius is artfulness. So it's the difference between will and intention. So when you're having that willful, I'm going to take it because I need it and want it, opposed to I like that. I intend to have it, right? It's just like, just, do you feel that? It's just more open. Like it's just a little bit less desperate, right? So this is a couple quotes that well, just the one really, quote that I'm going to pull from the Gene Keys book. Your higher purpose can only be manifested when you surrender your individual will to nature as a whole. This process of surrender begins with the understanding that your higher purpose is something you must tune into rather than impose on the world. So, do you feel like kind of that? It's like, and it's not like, the trick is not to stop wanting things so you stop hurting people, right? The trick is to surrender that that to the one that yes, you want it, and there's a way that nature is already conspiring to bring it to you, right? And are we allowing for that? Are we surrendering to that? Are we trusting what is the natural thing that's happening already? Are we trusting that natural flow? So, for like, I like this statement from the book: listening to your intention. So instead of willfully imposing what you want, listening to your intention. And the trick of this is like, instead of the hyper movement, you're saying, without needing to do anything, right? I can enjoy what I want, and I can enjoy even the desiring or the need for it, right? So if we're like living in that spirit, then we don't have to grab for anything. I love this so much. And like, I was going to talk about the quantum design piece, but I think this is really important because again, these things are not a given. And there is a mirror that's happening in the full moon later in the month. So first I'm going to let Susie break it up a little bit, talk about these wonderful things she's put into the comments already. Cherry Plum and Rock Water. She's going to tell us how this will help us out in this energy.
Do less do and more be, right? Less force and more flow is really what is coming up for me as I'm hearing about these energies. And rock water in particular is a great essence to help us go with the flow. It's the only flower essence that isn't made from a living plant. But it comes from the rock water spring, fresh spring, where Edward Bach sourced the water that he developed his flower essences in. The flower essences are the blooms infusing their energetic imprint in a bowl of spring water. So rock water is just like that. The way that water can make its way through even stone. Be patient, trust the process, go with the flow, and be, right? Trust your inherent strength. You don't need to prove it and demonstrate it and be external and be pushing and forcing. Just let your magnificent self take up this space and let nature do its magical work. And so vervain is another essence that came to me. And the more Monifa was talking about it, the more I was like, yes, this is exactly what it is. Because vervain really helps to temper that passion and fury, that fervor that we have when we're so clear and so passionate about something that we feel like we have to get on our soapbox and convince everybody this is the way it is. I see it and I need you all to see what I see. And how does that work at attracting people and bringing them into your understanding? You know, people tend to run away. It feels oppressive. And so with vervain, if you're feeling that kind of like, I need to show everyone the light, it will help you be at peace and recognize the balance, that your insights are powerful and important, and Other people have their own process, their way of being, and they are going to see what they're able to take in. You can hold it and hold space for them to connect with that, but you can't force them. That'll never bring them to what you're trying to share. So I think that those flower essences are great kind of little sidekicks, little flower power buddies to help you embrace this as energy starts to feel kind of big. That I kind of see this pressure cooker like building up steam and looking for a place to go. And we don't have to be victim to that kind of energy. We can just let the steam go, let that release happen, and trust the process.
That is so cool because your answer for that energy is the answer that like that's what the new moon is answering in the second part of the month. It's like the exact same thing. And for the exact same reason, like Susie said exactly where Richard Rudd goes in the book, which is that true artfulness is selling your heart. It's literally defined in the gift as the state, it's a title of that section, heart selling. And so what is that? That's basically saying that like it's the difference. Have you ever heard of like the idea that if money likes to be seen, that it wants, like if you buy something, you have to show it. It's like kind of almost a obligation there because it draws more prosperity, right? What's the difference between I bought my first house and everybody's excited and everybody's right? Like, what's the difference between that and I paid off all my bills? Look what I just did, right? Like, right? How we do it, who we're being when we make that statement, right? It's no, I'm excited because I wanted this thing. I think it's awesome. And now I have it, right? And all the joy of what it took to get it and all the pride of why it was worth it to you. Like all of that, as opposed to like needing people to agree with you that you're awesome and that you obviously are awesome, obviously worked hard and obviously you feel the difference? And I've seen people like out of desperation to be seen and to really for people to understand what they've accomplished and get recognized for it, have this kind of boastful effect to it. And it's like, no, hon, like I'm telling you, you need to help them. And so you need to talk about how you're helping them. And what they'll do is they'll go back to explaining why they're worthy. And it sounds like boastfulness, right? So this is the trick of the game. So same way Susie was like, listen, let's just
Easy
come back
there.
to going with the flow and let's get balanced in our connection with our passion. That is the answer for our new moon in Cancer for June. It's perspective. In the quantum human design, it's literally called perspective. It's gate 52 there. And then Gene Keys 52 is the shadow of stress, the gift of restraint, and the city of stillness. So it's kind of like, what? Why would I want to be gifted in restraint? Well, I'm not saying that I'm a perfect example of this. Okay. It's not a part of my profile or anything, but it's something that I've seen people admire about me, my ability to be still when it doesn't feel like it's a time to be still, right? And so that's the ability to restrain. It's like I can only meet things so much. It's one of the reasons why I feel like I have a business when people who are way smarter and more crafty and more whatever don't, because I'm like, yeah, I need to do this much. And then the rest is up to nature, right? It's like, it just is what it is. I'm not the only one with responsibility here, right? So it's allowed me to give what I have to offer without feeling like I need to do anything else about it. That's this. That's a high level of power, knowing when to do, when to and not do, right? So the shadow here is stress. The idea here is essentially we cannot escape our energetic capacity to feel what's going on. Like you can stop watching the news. I did that a long time ago. Right? But you will not ever not feel the collective pressure of what's not happening, what isn't working. Right? So there's this general just energy field that we are in the soup of just by being on the planet with each other of stress, right? And so here it shows up in the shadow as whether you can't still sit still, sound familiar, or you're stuck. You can't move, right? You can't get up the gumption to go. And it references this aspect of this frequency. The reference is seasonal patterns. Literally, Richard Rudd mentions patterns. And he's like, the problem is nobody wants to live the season of rest. Guess who agrees, right? I have a whole thing. Even we did a thing on our Verve Vision, in the book club, where we did a whole thing on rest during the season of winter, right? And that is what it's like. If you can't see when it's time to rest, then you're missing something. You're not allowing nature to take its course in a way that will serve you, right? So there's this, the fear is that if we don't do something, something will get us, right? So the fear is like this response to the unknown pressure. Like and especially since we can't tell where it's coming from. Now we're afraid of what's unknown just because we feel like we should be. It feels like I should be scared because there's a lot of stress in the field, right? And I don't know why. So it becomes this generalized pushback, right? So the repressive side gets stuck. It's a physical, literal feeling of stuckness. It can become a physical or an emotional feeling of depression or apathy. And it's really hard to escape once you kind of start moving into that pressured stress and that, because it's just going to reinforce what you're feeling, right? So if we keep tuning into the generic field without breaking out into our own ego, into our own way of seeing ourselves forward, then we may have a problem. So service is the only way you can step out of this, right? Like you have to start being able to see how things can be fixed or how things can be helped or what you can do about helping things, right? This is why, again, people get so desperate about being able to help. It's like, just listen to what I'm saying. And this sounds like boasting. It sounds like marketing. It sounds like you're pushing your shit on me, right? Instead of, oh, look at what's possible. Oh my gosh, do you know life could be like this? I am so excited to help other people have this experience, right? Why does it feel different? It's not, really isn't. It's not different, but how we are operating with the energy is what's different. The other side of reactive is restlessness, response to stress and doing something just outside of the like our body's response. So not outside of, because of our body's response. So adrenaline is usually the response to stress, like the triggers that start sending out the hormones that give us that sense of fight, flight, freeze, which I always want to say wrong. Like that happening is like, okay, you're not going to get me. I'm just going to keep doing something about it. Right? That's that kind of energy. So how does it move out? It's basically the balance of activity and passivity. The quote I pulled for this is, the more selfless the intention, the more power it will have. So if we're sitting, and again, these are not naturally linked. Like not in the human body chart of human design, not in the gene keys. They are not naturally linked. But we had just heard intention as the way it works. And in the full moon, you heard that intention is what we focus on. So it's not just a willful act. So we allow nature to take its course. So, like, again, nature is setting us up to win. It's already setting us up to win, right? Another part of this is we have to trust in the direction our intention takes, even if it does not make sense to us at the time. This is the power of restraint, to allow your life to unfold without urgent demand. And Richard Rudd talks about this as the aspect of non-interference, because it's already coming to you. Like, your job is not to get in the way. And we're going to talk about this in the practice, because it's like one of the full things I completely like took out as a note that I wanted to make sure to come back to, which is basically about the section about juggling. And I'm like, oh my God, if people understood this and accepted it, they just surrendered, which is what is needed to get the gift of 26, our full moon, right? You have to surrender to the natural process, right? So it's this surrender, non-interference, move your butt out the way, just be with the thing, right? And then, like the city of stillness, the culmination of mastery. So the reason why I don't always get into the city, because there's so much to get to, right? But this is like blowing my mind, right? So the culmination of mastery, which is what you talked about when I started, because I could not say it because I was so excited. And mastery was the new moon that just happened in May 26th, right? And the full moon that's happening for June on the 11th is artfulness. So that ability to tap into your purposeful intention and surrender to the way it comes in, the way it's made happen. And it's so interesting because it's kind of this combination, because he talks about it's really like natural selling. It's just like you talking about what is important to you and why it's amazing and why life is amazing, right? Like, it's this ability to pull in this capacity to really love and respect a thing or a person, right? And the restraint is like, and this is how you can tell if you're in that place of giftedness. In order for you to master something, which is the city of 16. Again, these things are not natural progressions. This is not a given that these would be the moon focuses. This is not a given. In order for you to have mastery, you must both be present with what's important, the ego, what is allowing us to perceive what is needed. And you must be willing to be in balance between your activity and your passivity. You must have a sense of when to rest and when to move forward, right? That's what mastery is. I think that's cool. If you ask me, that is some cool stuff right there.
Superpower unlocked.
Superpower unlocked. Right? And versatility really is about being able to take on the whatever skill is needed, period. And again, that's why it blew my mind that I'm getting this at the same time I'm getting new information about AI, which I don't always seek out, new information about sales, which I don't always seek out, right? And it's just like, what? This ability to have any skill you need for the given moment. This is the gift you're being given. And this is what's needed. You need this. You need it. And Susi's a mastery at agility. She calls it mostly resilience. Right? And I'm a master at agency. This is what like blew me away. Like I'm a master at agency. Like I don't do things. I don't even know how I do certain. I just and I don't. I'm not really somebody who's getting it from other people. Usually, I'm learning to receive more, but that's been a process. But that's one of the reasons why I'm so resourceful because I hated asking for things, right? So I'm just saying, y'all should probably still stay in touch
Because there's
because
more
yes,
brilliance coming.
more millions on the way, man. We're mastering. We are
Mastering
mastering this.
midlife and every chapter that we are in, right?
Yeah, as needed, changing it up as needed, right? So perfect,
Mm.
perfect, right? I mean, I'm just saying. I can't stand it. Yeah, so like moving into the practice.
Well, I'll say briefly too, it was a little harder. The flower essences weren't jumping right out for me on this aspect of the month, but obviously cherry plum and rock water, that flexibility, I think is going to continue to be supportive. But crabapple really came to me. It's a cleansing flower. It's great if you've got one of those tenacious bugs you just can't get rid of. If you are carrying stuff, if you just need to clear the residue. And that feels really relevant for this phase where we're trusting what we know. We're trusting we're on the mark. We're not trying to put all this on ourselves in order to put on a front. So crabapple feels really relevant. Aspen, if we can calm the worries and quiet the mind, I think that helps us tune in to what is asking to be brought forward. And finally, then Scleranthus finally opened up for me and said, yes, we need to trust that we are connected, that we know the answers, that we know what is our next best step. And so Scleranthus helps us to build that faith and confidence that we already know the answers.
I love it. I love it because it is within us. Yeah, because I can hear the questions like, well, how do we know whether we should need to be active or passive? It's that trusting of the intention. The intention is where the answer is. It's telling you. Like this is why I kind of and I mean, I wouldn't say I love them, but I love a challenge of a sales conversation. Why? Because it's this practice of is it time for me to talk about why this is amazing and I love it and I hope that you do it with me, or is it time for me to just sit and like receive what it means to you, what is up for you, what is going on, right? Should I just like how do I choose, because the person in front of me is telling, like, nature's providing, right? They're telling me out their mouth, I'm actually interested, I'm just scared. Or I'm not really interested, I just want to be interested so people will like me, right? Like it depends on how they're talking, right? And if I'm listening and allowing, and instead of pushing for what I want,
Right.
I know this will work for you. Usually I'm not talking to somebody unless I can have that sense already. I know this will work for you. I know this could change your life. I would love, right, for you to do this. And if you're still, oh, I don't know, then it's my job to just listen. And I don't have any more work to do because you don't know yourself yet. Until you know, there's nothing else. Yeah, I can't do nothing else about it. I can only tell you why I know. Right?
Faith in the process.
So it's the process. And we're going to talk about a little bit of the process as we move forward.
The practice, shipping the work. Thank you, Seth Godin.
Yes, yes. And I love his approach to this information so much because it's like it's a very masculine version of like kind of the way I think. So there's some essences there that are like a little more masculine than I would choose as a definition, like shipping the work, like What are you talking about? It's the sharing of my God-given talent. What do you like? I don't know what you mean by shipping the work.
You think I'm some kind of warehouse worker? I'm supposed to roll out my sleeves and handle this inventory? What are you talking about?
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, but his premise, and I feel like everybody has their own truth, is it doesn't count if you don't share it, right? It doesn't count. It's like if the tree fell in the woods, do we know that? Well, just like, well, the tree fell, like whether you acknowledge whether it fell, right? Like, I don't know. So there's a few points in the book where I'm just like, wait a minute, hold up. And that's one of mine. But yeah, it gets into this practice of creativity, which we are in full agreement on. My first name for my what I did was singing as a practice. So I am like, okay, I get that. I see where you are going. You have to have your qualifications while you're learning, right? You're just like, I'm not going to absorb everything immediately, but I will listen, right? What was your first impressions of it?
I am not very familiar before starting this book on Seth Godin's work, his influence, uh, and just I feel like I'm just starting to see, like, below the waterline how much more of the iceberg there is, how prolific he is. When it comes to shipping the work, I think he's definitely somebody that walks his talk in that art, if you will, what we're creating, whether that is art, whether that is just whatever it is that we come to produce, is not precious, and perfection isn't the goal, and you're not going to get to the top of your craft by waiting until it's perfect to deliver it. So, when he talks about shipping the work and encouraging you to show up and put in the time and be consistent and all of those things that, we hear about, we see other people have talked about, um, I really believe as it's coming from him, he's kind of showing his own guidebook, what he has discovered has worked for him as he's created businesses and best-selling books and other enterprises and media and whatever other spaces he dabbles in. He's just somebody who feels that compulsion to be in creative mode, without falling into the doing and I'm just making stuff or putting in time for the sake of doing it, but being open to letting that process move, and so therefore it refines and gains more art over time.
Yeah. Well, and that's whenever he says something, he'll say something else that backs it up that makes me like, okay, I see where you're going with that. Because, and this is why I say that we're almost mirror reflections in that regard, because the way he thinks of work is how I think of mastery, essentially. Because that's how I believe that if I'm going to work on something, that it might as well get better, right? Like if I'm going to do something, I might as well do it better, right? And that is to me an aspect of a creator. Like a creator is like, this is what I want. That was close. I went better, right? Like that's just the way our brains work. We're discerning what it is, what we want, what makes it what it is, and then we're looking for the next truer version of that. Um, and so he was saying that it's the difference, but for him, it's basically saying like it's work when you are actively trying to serve people. You're actively hoping that somebody will enjoy it or get something out of it when you're done. And like hobbyists and hobbyism is more about just personal enjoyment. You don't really care if anybody gets anything out of it, right? Whether somebody will pay for it or not, even, right? And so I was like, okay, I get what you're saying, because I love hobbies and it's not my priority I'm always thinking about what can I do better? What can I improve? Right. I am that person. So I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. I can agree with that. This other part of this first section for me, like that really brought it home was that part of being like accepting that it's a practice and not a like a profession by any other name, right? Like, so even when you talk about health, they call doctors' offices practices, right? Why? Because they're not satisfied. It's not like a stuck structure. It's that something that they're practicing on so that they can improve health over time, right? Um, and so the way he defines that is that something that you're working on that may not work. I'm going to work on it. I'm practicing. I'm working on it, but it may not be successful. It could be successful, but it probably maybe won't, and probably won't. By percentage, it probably won't, right? Like that's I think the difference between like how close are we getting to artistry, how close are we getting to science, right? We need the probably to be that it will work in science. And then in artistry, we're like, it could work, it could not work, it could work, but I like it. All I know is something, I like it, you know? But yeah, so that's that piece that was like, I don't know. It was very meaningful to me because I know there's the meaning comes when I've tried and failed and tried again and succeeded. That's what's true for me, right? That's where my satisfaction comes in. Um, yeah. So, I think that's towards the end of the book, actually. Should we go to the next section or?
Sure. Chapter
So
2, Getting
yes,
Generous. Is that where you're headed from there?
yes,
Yes. I love this concept. First, I want to say, because what's bubbling up for me, knowing Monifa and the way that she works in her studio, um, is that it really is all about the practice, bringing your presence and your focus and building your craft along the way. It's not about, I'm going to give 80% all the way through my practice, and when I perform, then magically I'll be at 100%. But it's creating the whole possibility, building those muscles so that you show up fully every time, whether you're practicing or performing. And I think that's where you really see the results. And that really resonates in terms of what I feel like Seth is saying, don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid to grow. Don't be afraid to fail. You're not going to be for everyone. And the more you fully show up and commit yourself, the more likely you are to find success and resonate with the people that you're here to resonate with, to
yeah,
land with, which I think is really great. And so as he then moves on to talk a little bit more about being generous in sharing your work, right? Why would you have these insights and these ideas and not want to share them? And so I think that's another great invitation to kind of get out of our own way personally. I struggle with, well, that idea isn't complete, or I don't know enough about speaking to that topic. And so I'm just going to wait, or in the podcast, I'm going to have someone on the show and they're going to be the expert. I'm just going to have a fantastic conversation. I'll shine a light on them. And there are usually little glimmers, moments in those conversations where I'm like, I say it as well as they do. I can do that too. And if we don't show up, if we're not shipping the work, then no one's ever going to know. So we have to be generous with those ideas and those sparks that are welling up in us. Otherwise, how can we know that as we perfect our craft, they won't be landing with the people who are waiting to find it?
that's huge. That's huge. I remember what I forgot about what I wanted to add to the one before
Haha.
when you were talking, because that it's that, releasing back to the moment. And that's when I was going to talk about the juggling that he references in that chapter, because it's like basically that the best way to learn how to juggle is to throw it up in the air and see it fall to the ground. And how many people don't want it to fall, how much there's like an automatic, I gotta get it, right? And it's so much of what I teach in singing is like so much of what I teach about presence and voice. It's like you cannot keep grabbing at it. Otherwise, you won't know where it's falling, right? And he doesn't speak about it like that, but he speaks about it in the essence of surrender, which again, it brings us back to what's going on in the month, right? Our ability to surrender to what's happening as a natural state of flow. And like allowing for it, which to me allows us to be more generous, right? So to me, it's like, again, a very natural progression. I'm like, you say things really different, but I feel like we think a little similarly, right? Like I can be generous if all I'm doing is sharing what's up for now, right? That's how I feel generosity in speaking in my moments when I do show up. I'm like, if I can just share what's up for me for now, then I'll show up all day, right? And then allow people to let me know how it's landing with them and take the feedback, right? Like, and so that's the thing. It's like if I'm not doing it the way that you like it, I will do it a different way. That feels good to me. It's still going to be something that feels good to me. I'm just going to find another way. I'm going to find another nuance to play from, right? So I feel like that allows us to be generous. Yeah, I love that. Let's see, am I missing anything? I think that's it for that one. And the professional. Ooh, this was like what it means to professionals. Like he talks about this similarly. He does bring it up early on in the book of The War of Art, which is my favorite creation book, creative philosophy maybe book. And yeah, so like how to approach the work, I think, is a way to talk about this chapter. So yeah, do you have anything you wanted to
There's
add here?
one of the things that I really enjoy about the flow of this book, and I've still got more reading slash listening to do for sure. So this is about where I am in the flow of the book. But I enjoy that, there are little essays, there are little thoughts that you can really explore and sit with. It's not like some books you have to get a grasp of every single aspect or perspective in order to build on it and get everything that you take away at the end of the book. So I love that it's these ideas, these kernels that he tosses out, and you can kind of, so you don't have to take it necessarily in sequence. You can take what lands with you and carry it along with you. You can ponder it and come back to it. So I think it's so funny. As in all things, all beautiful timing. It's a great one for us to kind of toss out there and not necessarily have the kind of structured follow-up that we usually do, coming back with our book club and informal discussion. It's kind of like, oh, what is this spark in you? And one of the things that in going through the book is sparks for me is as Monifa's talking about, the other books of creativity and influence that we've talked about. We didn't do the War of Art in our series. Maybe someday it'll come back around. But Big Magic, where these little things that you can take and spark, and talking about morning pages, committing to getting more consistent is really the inspiration that I take from the way that he collected many different ideas and concepts, kind of funneled them into categories, the professional, intent, and then you can take it as you will. So I'd like that invitation to do more journaling, do more introspection, and be a little bit more inspired to be shipping work. I like that as the flow.
Yes, I think it felt very natural to me. And I can't say that's always been true about like kind of this approach to the information, but the idea of generosity allowing you to be a professional. But I know it's true, but from my experience, like I started resenting showing up for people, like, especially on social media, like people you just showing up and like people are just like, I don't care. I'm like, okay, fine. And then like and that's what it feels like. It's not always true, but it's often what it feels like. Um, and I got to this place where it's like, well, it wasn't like a direct combatant of like, I will never do this again because nobody appreciates it. But it was just kind of like, well, I'll do as much as I feel like doing, right? It started becoming less committed, which is not a good thing, right? And then I had this turning point where I realized, I'm giving away gold here. I'm like, I'm giving away gold here. And I had this point where I was like, you know what? I can afford to do it because I have more. I have more where this came from. And it was this all of a sudden, like when people were showing up, it wasn't like finally somebody showed up. It was, oh, I'm so glad you're here. I'm giving away gold, right? And like the excitement level just goes up to another notch. And then it's like, well, and because you can get back to why you're doing it in the first place. In my kind of viewpoint, you're getting back to, well, if I could just make one person's day better, if I could just keep one person from second guessing themselves for a trillionth time, like it's worth it, right? So I think those are the times where you're just like, okay, like, and it doesn't matter how it happens. You just gotta keep it. I gotta keep it I gotta keep making it happen, right? I gotta keep giving away gold because if I want to live in the world that I want to live in, then gold must be shared, right?
Completely. Absolutely. I think that's so important, and that's a really powerful reminder in this book. As creators, speaking for myself, I've created and created and created. Oh my goodness, my Google Drive folders just go on for days, right? And I'm always creating and rarely circling back to look over what all there is and recognize the depth and breadth of it. And when it feels like it's not landing, when it feels like the audience hasn't shown up, it can be discouraging and overwhelming. And what is it for? And so exactly like you're saying, Monifa, right? Because there's more. Because there's more, I'm not done yet. And so we'll find the people who are out there listening. They're on their own time frame. Who knows when things are going to resonate with them? And if we don't squander our gold, if we keep showing up and being game to engage with this process of creation, then I think we're fulfilling what we're compelled to do, right? And by nature of keeping showing up, keeping moving forward with the process, it's going to refine itself. It's going to move forward. It's going to continue to move in the direction that it's supposed to. So we can have faith in that process as long as we're participating in the process.
If we're participating and if we're focusing on something that allows us to gain the feedback, which again, this is exactly like exactly how I built my method and why it works. Because if you have a point of focus, then you can tell when something's working, when it's not, why it's working, why it's not. Otherwise, there's no parameters. What I talk about in my work is like there's no parameter. You can't tell. If you don't know why it worked, even if it did work, like how useful is that? Can you repeat it? Probably not, right? In order for, energy spent to be sustainable, it has to have something has to happen. Like either it's self-generating, in other words, you're enjoying yourself and you are gaining more energy to do other things by doing it. So that's like pure creativity for creativity's sake. It's an engine that will drive you forever if you trust it, right? Like And the more you want it to be impactful, the more you have to focus and be aware. How are people hearing? How are people receiving? Right? And so like the next section, that's what he ends up talking about, is like the intention, like knowing who you're talking to, which is something I also talk about when it comes to connection. It's like, if you are guessing at who you're talking to, if you're talking to everybody, no wonder you're afraid, because you can't judge, you can't discern how everybody's receiving it, not at once. So now you're just picking up on general stress. That's like straight up anxiety, right? Like literally a definition of anxiety. How do I know? Because I've experienced it. Okay, a lot of it. So, so that's the thing. It's like, if we're not allowing ourselves to be intentional, and that word came back, right? It was intention. It was the focus of the full moon and the engine of the new moon. Right? It's like, if you have an intention, you can tell. If my intention is for you to understand what I know, I can tell whether you get it or not. I can tell whether you need more information to get it, or you need me to be quiet until you get it. Right? So that's like, again, I get a little excited about the correlations. But yeah, that intention piece. No such thing as writer's block. Yeah, that's a whole section. I wish I wish I had taken more notes, because there was some really good stuff in between the sections, but I can't relate it because he just kind of shoots the ideas out. And so I'm my memory is not keeping up with everything that I absorbed or did not absorb. But yeah, do you have anything you read about that section that you remember? No such thing as writer's block.
No, that's coming right up. I love the the key points, right? The categories, like I said, because there's so much that he kind of brings into categories, into types, make assertions with your work, earn your skills, seek out constraints, which I think is something that people tend to feel like, I can make more art if I didn't, right? If I didn't have a regular job, if I didn't have this, if I could do this, if I could do that, like why do I have to work with these constraints? Well, because they can really kind of force more brilliant solutions. So I love where all he goes with all of his thoughts and ideas. Sometimes it's a little bit radical, or maybe against what you would typically think is supportive to creative flow and production in that regard, not productivity, but the production through the creative process, which I think is some really great food for thought.
Well, I think, again, like the way he talks about it is like very masculine to me. Like he's like, chop wood, carry water. You just do it, right? You do it because why? Because you need to do it. You do it.
It's
Right?
Tuesday.
And
This
it's
is what we do
very,
on Tuesdays.
but he does reference the same quote that bothers the hell out of me as the Nike, what is just do it.
Yeah.
And he's like a more accurate statement would be merely do it. Like merely do it. Which I was like, okay, yeah, I get, like, then we do get each other. We just don't talk the same way, right? For me, it's like, yeah, why stop working on something that you want to do? Like, if it's really what you want, then why would you not do it? Like, that's what I don't like. My brain is like, well, yes, I know. Yeah, I know you're tired. I know you're like, but like, do you want it? Like, are you going to stop wanting it? That's kind of one of the things I bring up with my people. It's like, are you going to, like, how long have you wanted to sing? How long has that been? Like, how many years have you wanted to sing? Has it gone away? Is it getting less? You feel like you less want to sing, right? Then just do something. Like, do something, right? Like, You don't have to share it. You don't have to share it, in my opinion. And he does talk about that. He says, you don't have to, but I hope you do. Right. And that's the truth for all of us. You don't have to share what you're doing, but we hope you do because it could change the world. Right. And that's this thing. It's like, yeah, merely do it. Like, yeah, stop putting so much weight on the one thing that you're doing. Just do it. And then if you don't like it, do it again. If you don't like it, do it again. If you don't like it, fix it and do it again. Right? Like, just keep doing it. And this is where I think he brings up the stack of papers of like comics that this guy that I don't know got accepted, and then the comics that didn't, and it's 3 times, 4 times the stack that got accepted, and that's from somebody who's a professional who does this for a living. Like, if your stack is 100 times, then that just means you're not there yet. You just don't know. You haven't had enough variables. You haven't shared enough to know what the difference is. Right? So we are on the same page. It's just sometimes it's like, hold up. What are you saying? Why are you saying that? You know, and making assertions. I don't know. Sometimes it's just like, really, Seth? Really? Really? Yeah. Yeah. It's just that, like, his approach to like being assertive, to me, this is pride. This is the shadow. Like, it can show up as good as it show up that it's not good. It's really not a matter of whether or not. And that's the thing about like people, especially with that energy. Like, if you have a strong 26 in your chart type of feeling, what's gonna happen? What's gonna inevitably happen is that you're gonna say it, and you're not gonna be able to not say it. And what you say is either going to be an assertion or a guarantee. Guarantee is when you're too afraid to talk about what you can't do. And an assertion is when you are like confident that it's available, but you're not guaranteeing anything. Right? Like, and so there is that piece of it. But this is one of those that I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to come back to this one because I don't buy it yet. I don't buy it yet, you know. But
And
it
it's
is
interesting
important.
right now looking through that lens of the energies, right?
Yeah.
And we're looking at having that fervor, that conviction that might make you hard to hear by the people who you are trying to reach, right? So
Yes.
it's interesting to look at that, his perspective, that male version of creativity versus how is that landing, and how tuned in
Yes.
are you to who's on the receiving end? Is it just for you that you're creating this, or is your mission to land with people? Is their response just as important as what you're creating?
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's kind of why it's like by nature, I'm like, nothing's certain. So I don't love the idea of having to do either. And what I know is that until you're committed to an idea, you won't know the difference. And unless you're willing to say how you really feel about it, you won't get the feedback. Right. So it's really this, to me, it's a different version of commitment. How committed are you to the idea? And then are you willing to hear the feedback? Because if you're not willing to hear the feedback, then you run into problems. You run into problems, right? But yeah, that's kind of, I'm still, like I said, the jury's out. Earn your skills is this one again. I feel like this is versatility. This is versatility. Like the truth, yeah, the way he starts it. The truth about getting better. The truth about getting better is that you're gonna suck until you don't suck. Like, that's why you're getting better. And as adults, we often forget that getting better is a process of failing. It's a process of failing, right? So yeah, so that's the thing. Like those are, I think, yeah, you have to earn it. If you want it to get better, and I've seen this again in clients too. If you want it to get better, you got to do it. You got to do it. And if you're expecting it to get better without doing it, then you're not being fair to yourself, and you're definitely not being fair to the practice because everybody else had to learn. Okay. So, yes, that's my take on that. And I'm going to Susie do a quick round and then maybe make one more point.
Well, I think I really love the invitation that there is in this book, just as our conversation kind of illustrates, right? You know, as much as we've collected books that we think have powerful ideas and concepts and can change your perspective and change your approach and inspire you to do things differently, it's also not a this is the way it is. So I love that this conversation is like, yes, I totally resonate with that. And yes, I hope you take that inspiration from this perspective or what he said. And at the same time, we can be like, but that part doesn't work for me. And how would it look if it was more like this? Or if this is really my intention and what I'm creating, then I choose to stand over here in the spectrum and feel perfectly like effective and, you know, fully expressed in the way that I'm working. So I love that this is kind of, again, in line with the energies of where we are in this season of change with big things coming up and the way that we're navigating them, the way that we keep showing up, I think is ultimately where the results are, ultimately where people are going to see your passion, your purpose, the vision that you have. And we need that right now. We need all of the vision that can come to the table to hold space for the potential that we can all be moving towards, because there's plenty of distraction and chaos and friction that we could fall into if we let ourselves. So the more big, beautiful, bold ideas that we can keep sharing and bringing up, I think is going to keep us inspired and connected and hopeful. That's my takeaway.
Exactly. Yeah, I think, that's why we keep coming back to the concept of creativity, because it's essentially the concept of agency. And that is what is so powerful about making a study of creativity. And I think that's what's so powerful about having a practice of creativity. Like something should, in my opinion, something should be a practice for you. I don't, and it doesn't have to be creative as I'm going to paint, this, wonderful painting. It can be creative, and I'm putting yellow Legos together until I can't anymore. Like there's so many different kinds of creativity. It really, like any of it will advance you as a human being, because it's essentially bringing your intentional, your purpose in intentionally, right? It's that being in the fulcrum of what it takes to be able to manipulate light. Like that's the power of 26, is to bring truth, in my opinion, it's another translation of light, into reality. And so, like, one of the concepts that I did use as a takeaway here was solidifying your identity, ego, by doing your work, actively being in balance with the progression of the flow, right? Like, and this idea that, creators create, writers write, singers sing, right? So the first step in all of it is just to do it, merely to do it.
Merely.
Merely to do it. So I think with that, we will sadly end. I feel like a little, I call that nostalgia already. But
Mm.
for now, we are
Put a
complete.
little bow on it. This is our 16th episode, so there's a whole library of our, brilliant musings. We talk about the energies, of course, we talk about the concepts in the books that we pulled together and shared. So those are living on Monifa Harris on YouTube. And over on the Buy Me a Coffee page, you can check out what we pulled together for book club, those recordings and reviews. So if you missed any of the books that we've delved into along the way. So it's not goodbye. It's just to see you later. So follow us on Buy Me a Coffee too, because the more musings we indulge in as we keep on reading and growing together, we'll be dropping those little gems over there on that Buy Me a Coffee page. So follow us there so you can get updates moving forward. Of course, subscribe to Monifa Harris's YouTube channel, and we'll see what sparks come up along the way, because we're always open to more of those.
Absolutely. You will see us in the future. We like to play together, so it'll happen. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. Hope you have a fabulous June.
Mwah! Sending you all so much love. Take good care of yourselves. The world needs your light.
Truth.